Okay. All right. So let me take this out and we start all over. So essentially, for you to create any issue type, whether it's epic or a story or a bug or a task, you have to come to the backlog because essentially that's where it's gonna be. It's gonna stay. So, and on the left side pane here, you can see my mouse has the backlog. So on the company one, you're gonna see a lot of things here. This one is the pre-version. That's why you have limited things you can do here. You will see reports. You will see active sprint, which is maybe like the board. You will see several other things, items on this left side, but this is limited because it's free. It's just to essentially like do basic things and practice with it, a demo. So now we want to create a backlog item. It could be an epic. So the first thing to do is essentially create an epic. Do you know why? Can you tell me why we need to create an epic first?
We should create an epic to first then break them down into stories.
Stories, yeah. So because without having epics, you can have stories essentially. Every story must be an offshoot of an epic. So, epic is a large body of work and sliced into, different stories so that you can achieve that big epic. So now, to create any issue, you come here. You can come here at the top, you can see my mouse, or you can create here. But the easiest is just to come here. The reason why I'll show you. So when you click on create, so the project, because I already created the project to be school website, like in my own, I created the project that, okay, I want to build a school website. So that's the project name. So now I want to create an epic. So here it says the issue type. So an issue type could be a story, an epic, a bug, or a task. But in this case, we are creating an epic. So now when we are creating the epic, so what do I want the epic to be? So maybe say we want to create login details. Details for the user, right? So let's say that's an epic. So in the description, we could say that as a user, I want to be able to log in using my login details. Oh, I wasn't typing anything. Sorry, as a user, I want to be able to log in using my login details. Right? And please just stop me and ask me questions if you have any. Okay, so this is what you want to achieve using this epic. And what is the acceptance criteria?
Acceptance criteria can be like for every time that I log in, maybe you can send me notification to my email, or if I'm logging in from
don't forget this is an epic. So
okay,
user is able to log in because that's what we want to achieve, right? So, but what you're saying can come in maybe like, okay, can come in the, what's it called? Stories. So now, this is an epic, I'm the reporter. So reporter means that I'm the one who is creating it, right? So these are other details that you can put in for an epic. But again, these are just the basic things you need. Just the description of it, the summary, which is what you want to achieve, the description, and the acceptance criteria of it. So now, if this is just the only issue I want to create, right? I don't want to create anyone else. I can just like click on create here. But because I want to create more issue types, like stories that will be linked to this one, I can just be like, create another issue. So that when I hit on create, this one goes away and just gives me a blank one again to continue doing it. So once I get to the last issue type I want to create, I can just uncheck this one so that when I click on create, it will not come back again. So you will see what I mean. So now I want to create a story. Login using username and password, right? That's a story because essentially we have to use a username and password, right? Please, I just want to make sure. I'm asking those because I want to make sure you're listening.
Yes.
Yeah. So don't forget, the goal of the Epic is to be able to log in, right? Using login details. But now we are creating a specific story for username and password. So this story is for logging in using username and password. So the acceptance criteria would be that as a user, I want to be able to log in using my username and password, right? So now, there's something we could add here. It could be that, okay, we can list out the tasks that could be done by the software engineer, or maybe we can collapse it to acceptance criteria too. We can say AC, acceptance criteria could be like, okay, user able to log in using username and password. What's another thing? Item. Login details should be a combination of uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. So that's another one. What's another one again that could be?
Maybe all fields must be entered.
Of minimum of 8 characters. Right. 8 characters for both password and username. So meaning that, so what that means is that for us to consider this story done, it must, when we are testing it, we must be able to achieve all of this. Right. When the engineer finishes the work. Right? Yeah. So what other things can we look out for here? So so now we may want to link it to an Epic, but I'll show you. Okay. So we may want to link it to an Epic here, but I'll show you something later. So let's just create the but I want to create but I want to create one more story, which is login using Face ID. So the description is, as a user, I want to be able to log in using my Face ID, right?
Oh.
So, and the acceptance criteria could be user is able to log in using Face ID. Okay, so let me stop here. So all I had to do was just uncheck this so that it doesn't bring this box again.
Okay.
And then I just hit create. So now it doesn't bring that box again because I unchecked that. So now I have, so let me turn on the Epic panel. So this is the Epic panel. It was off before. That's why we were not seeing it. So if I turn the panel on, so you can see it on the left. So here you see Epics. So now if you want to create more Epics, you can just come here, or you can come here. If you want to create more stories, you can come here. So now, if you look at these stories and these epics, they are not linked. But you know, the ideal thing is that each story is linked to an epic, because you're gonna have in real life, you're gonna have multiple epics. So how do you know what stories in your backlog are linked to a certain epic? The only way you can know is linking them. So that once you see the story, you know that, okay, this story is for this epic. So what you can do essentially is when you click on the story, it's going to pop up on the left side like this. And it shows you some other things within that story. Like, okay, if your team uses labels, you can put the label. You can put what sprint you are. When they are doing story point estimates, you can put story point estimation. And here you can link it. Let me see. Let me take this out. This is blocking me. Okay. Or is that? There's a place where I'm supposed to link it. Okay, here. Add epic. Right. So so when you click on add epic, there are many epics. So you can view all the epics, and in the drop down you can choose whatever epic it is. So now you see the difference. See something here. The moment I link it up, you can see the epic here, which is here. Right. I've not linked the second one, so it's still kind of like empty. Sure. So the ideal thing is when you create issue types, you want to link them to epics, whether it's a bug or story. Okay. So we do the same for this one too. And come here, add epic. So one thing I want you to note is that, again, this is, the free version. And in every organization, the interface may be different, but if the functionality is the same. So maybe you may not see add epic here or something. Maybe you can just see it within the, the details of that story to link an give me 1 moment. Give me 1 moment. Give me 1 moment. Yeah. Thank you very much for, yeah. So this second one too, which is logging using using Face ID. So we just like link it as well. So now we've linked both of it. And these are the things we do in refinement. We create those stories, through the help of the product owner. Sometimes the product owner could be the one driving it, so that the product owner will just be typing, but there'll be plenty conversations between the product owner and the software engineers, developers, making sure the developers understand what they need to do. They'll be talking about, it's going to be a it's going to be collaborative and conversation, making sure that the team understands what they need to do. So it could be the product owner, doing all the typing and whatever. So if we need to just modify something here, all you just have to do is click on any of that issue type and come in here to modify it. So it's very flexible. And once you do the modification, you can just save it again. So now, let's say we created these and we link the epic. So the next thing is, and the team have understood what they need to do. So now it's time for the team to, do estimation. So I try to use this. So in my organization, one thing I meant them doing was that they usually kind of like just throw out numbers. So be like, okay, what do you think this is? So once someone mentions a Fibonacci number, the rest just be like, okay, I think it is just big. So that's not objective enough because it would not spark conversation. So I use this tool. So you can just like, create one for yourself. I created one for myself. So when I created one for myself, I had the username pack. It's going to show a number. You're going to have a number. And that number, you share it to the guys. So they will use that to enter. So once they enter, you'll see their names. And I actually have one, but I don't remember the login details for it. Let me try. I don't remember. I have one that I use at my work, so I don't want to duplicate it. But essentially, once you create it, it's going to show. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Okay.
Like flipping cards.
Okay, this is create instant room. You don't even have to. So now, I created an instant room, right? I don't even need, so exactly, this is how it's going to be. So now I just created an instant room. So the guys will need this number. So you can just like copy this number and put it in if you're sharing your screen with them, just put it in the chat box. So we can replicate that. So let me do that here and put it in the chat. So I will show you something. So you people go to that same website. Let me share this with you. You can go to that same website and join. At the top, you see room number. Just put in that room number and click enter. And you see what happens on my screen. So this is going to be, if they are not doing this at your work, this is going to be a great addition to bring about objectivity. People's thoughts will not be colored. And, it's going to help them breathe. So when you join, I should see your name here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. So Mama Food.
I'm just trying to join.
Mm-hmm. So as a Scrum Master, you're not voting, right? So I'm not doing anything. So, but let's assume both of you are developers. So I want to simulate something. Okay, so while we wait on you, where is that? Okay. Are you on there now?
I think we're still waiting for.
Okay. If you, this is just simulation, so you don't have to log in. But let me just show you how it works. So now, during estimation, the team looks at the description, of each of the things. They look at the user story, the story, the description, and what the acceptance criteria is, making sure everyone understands it. So once they say they understand it, so now it's time to estimate, how many story points they think it will be. So this is where the story point estimates will be. So now, so we just be like, okay, they look at it as a user. I want to be able to log in using my username and password and all that. So now they come here, and what everyone does is from your screen, you will choose out of these numbers. You just have to click whether you think it's 1 or 2 or 3,
Right.
whatever number it is. So you have to click on the number here. So each person, please go ahead and click. How much story point you think that is? Mama Fuz.
I'm with you. Okay.
Just click the card, any of those cards, yeah. So now, nobody, if you are looking at my screen, nobody knows what anybody has chosen.
Right.
And that brings about objectivity until I show it. So now you see this. Mama Fu thinks it's 1, you think it's 2. So
Right.
now the team can now have a conversation around, okay, why do you think it's 2? Why do you think it's 1? Maybe someone is missing something.
Right.
Or maybe, maybe the team is missing something. So it's going to bring about, okay, additional things that may have not been uncovered.
Cool.
And then, once the team decides, you can delete the estimates and then revote again. So when you click on those again and we show it, we go with the highest number. So now in this case, the reason why you are just 2 developers. So let's say there are 5 developers and maybe 4 goes with 3 and just
Right.
1 is 1. Even though they're discussing, we go with the highest number. The majority carries it. But if there's a tie, you can, spur up a conversation again. And, whatever the team comes up with. So let's assume the team comes up with maybe like a 3. So you just come in here and you can use this or just type in the number. You can use this increase 1 or whatever it is, or you can just type the number in here straight up and just hit the check mark. So the number is going to be there and you will see it here. So you can see the story point is already there. This meeting is running out of time. So it says I have just 10 more minutes. Okay, let's just, we're almost done. So this second one too, want to like do it that way too. So let's say the team can be like, okay, and this is where relative sizing comes in. So now we both agreed that this is 3. So now looking at this other one, do we think it's more it has more work? Is it more complex, or the volume of work is more than the first one? So that's what is called relative sizing. So we are sizing this relative to this one, the first story. So is it more or less? So if it's less, that means the story point will be less. If it's more work, that means the story point will be more. So that's how you let your team know about story points, estimation, how to, in their mind, how to like estimate it. So now the first one is username, but this one is face ID, so it could be more complicated. So how much it be? So it could be 5, it could be 8. But if it's 8, that's in my mind, it would be telling me that it's more, it's much. So now in my mind, I can be like, okay, can we split the story into maybe like 2? Because one of the important things you want to make sure is that it meets the invest criteria. It is small enough to fit into the sprint. That's the S in the invest, small. So every story that goes into your sprint must be able to be completable within a sprint. So now let's say this is 5, right?
Yeah.
Now we've done, so now we have everything. We have the story. There may be other things, based on your definition of already with your team, other things that you agreed that has to be within the story before, it is moved into a sprint. But that will be dependent on your team. But these are the basic things that you need. There may be other things that may be that you need to complete in the fields. So now we want to we don't have a sprint yet, but we have sprint 1 here that I want to start. So now how do we, let's say this is what we commit to that I want to do in this sprint. How do we now move it in? So what we do is we can just drag the items. And don't forget, these essentially are in the backlog priority. What the arrangement of the backlog determines the priority, right? So if this one is on the top, it means it's top priority than this one. Right. Of course, it's top priority because you're using username and password. Not everyone has
the resources.
A functionality that has compatible with Face ID. So let's quickly move this because we don't have enough time. Okay, so now the sprint has not yet started because if we go to our board on the left side, look at this left, which is this active sprint. There's still nothing there. It's because we've not started our sprint. So we need to start our sprint. And when you click on start sprint, it's going to show up. What is the sprint name? Let's say software sprint 1. Okay. What else do we want to put in? We want to put the duration of the sprint. It depends on the duration of your organization, but it has to be consistent. So if your organization adopts a 2-week sprint, it means that all the sprints has to be 2. If they adopt a 3-week sprint, all their sprints has to be 3. So it cannot be 2-week sprints first, 3 weeks later, and all that. So, but the common one is 2 weeks. So now, when you select 2 weeks, this automatically changes because today is 27. So 2 weeks times 10, right? So now, what is our sprint goal? User is able to log in. This is very important. We need a goal.
Right.
And we're working towards. And our goal is essentially to be able to log in. So now, once you put in all these details, we will start. Okay, say something when I refresh this page. Okay, let's see. Okay, so now we started our sprint. So notice this. So the moment you sprint, it automatically went straight to the board, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes in the organization, it may not take you straight to the board. So you have to come to the side to come to the board. And now you can see it in the to-do list, right? So now your organization, you may just have these 3, to do, in progress, done. Sometimes you can have ready.
QA ready.
Acceptance or QA ready, whatever it is. You can have maybe peer review, whatever it is. And just like you said, QA ready, depends on your, the structure of the organization, your team or whatever, what you need to do. So you just put those columns there and arrange them. So peer review, ready for acceptance. So in my team, this is what we have. The peer review is if you need some other members of your team to review it for you. We only have 3 more minutes. So let me quickly rush this. So ready for acceptance is okay. Once the job is done by the software engineer, in my team, is the product owner that accepts it. right? So the product owner accepts it and move it to done. So once the work is being started, so now there's one thing here that is missing. Any team member that's working on it is called the assignee. So let's say I'm the assignee here. I can just put my name, right? Anyone else on your team would have been, on it as well. So the name would have appeared on it because you added them to the board. So now I've done that, and let me close this, and you'll see that my name is there, right? So there's no assignee on this one, but once you put an assignee, you can know, so that you can know who is working on what story on the board. So as everyone is working on it, you'll be moving it across the board. So maybe let's say I'm done working on it. I need some of my team members to review it. I put it here. Once they are done reviewing it and they let me know, that means everything is done. I've done all the work that needs to be done. I move it to ready for acceptance, right? So
at this point, on the product owner.
Yeah, and look at it. In the backlog, you can see the status of each of the items. Well, this is in to do. This is ready for acceptance now. And let me show you one more thing. So there's another thing here. For all the issue type, you can always see the history of those issue types. What has happened? So you knew when I was moving it around, ranking it, this is it here.
Right.
The ones of moving it around. So it shows the history of, if anything happens on your board, you can know who moved what, who did what. So here I moved it into in progress 53 seconds ago. 47 seconds ago, I moved it to peer review, and I moved it to acceptance. So you can know how long that ticket has been in each of those statuses, right, in the history. So you can add comments, which is a best practice too. Whatever you're working on, you can be like, okay, I'm having a blocker here or whatever. And if it's blocked too, you can always create, on the board, you can always create, a column that'll be like, okay, blocked. So that when you have an impediment, you just move it into blocked. So everyone knows that it's blocked, and you can, as a Scrum Master, see how you can remove that impediment. Right. So I have exactly 1 minute to go. So, but essentially, this is all you need to do. So now let's say we've completed, let's say this is all to RFP, we've done this now, and the product owner accepts it. And let's say and look at this.
10 days
we have
remaining.
a 2-week sprint, and it starts today. That's why we have 10 days remaining. But every day, single day, is going to go down until the last day, where it goes to 0. And then once the sprint ends, you just hit complete sprint here. So now, if these are not done yet, you want to make sure the product owner accepts it first. Or if the product owner does not want to accept it, once you hit complete sprint, what it does is that it moves them to the backlog or to the next sprint. It will give you an option. Do you want to move it to the next sprint or into the backlog? So you choose where you want it to go, and you just click it, and this sprint will close.